everybody. I gotta plug in the microphone here. We're about to get some pretty heavy rain, I think. We're supposed to have this crazy mini storm moving through. I gotta put you guys down for just a second. Give me a minute. Alright, what's up everybody? Welcome back to Walks on Wall Street. A little bit of unexpected rain, so I'm not too sure how this is going to work. I forgot the umbrella as I left the office. Now it was pretty beautiful today, honestly. The entire day was picture perfect, it was sunny. But just as I stepped out of the office, I looked on the, what's it called? The weather application. And I think we're gonna get some crazy rain and wind for maybe the next 20, maybe 30 minutes here, depending. We'll see. But yeah, that's right. Peters is the Manhattan Henge was tonight. Oh, it was a bust due to the rain clouds, was it really? It stinks. What's going on, everybody? It's good to see all of you. I guess we'll get into some quick announcements as we wait out the rain here. So tomorrow I'm going to be traveling, but I think I might just be able to make it to downtown Miami in time to do a live broadcast. So it's either we're not going to be live tomorrow or we will be live from downtown Miami. I will be in Florida probably for the next 4 days, I believe. Hopefully a little bit longer, we'll see. But yeah, no newsletter this week. We're gonna have one next week, which is great. It'll kind of be fun to people watch everybody freaking out about the rain. Oh wow, New England Crypto, I forgot about that. Well, congrats, that's freaking awesome, dude. God bless you and your family. Welcoming another life into the world. Whoa, that was a crazy lightning strike. I'm not too sure if Peter is in the chat, but Peter, you sent me exactly what I needed for tonight, and I totally forgot to apply it. Well, let's see if we get any cool lightning strikes here. We'll see as we wait out the storm. I think the last time I checked the phone, it was only supposed to rain like this for like 30 minutes, maybe an hour. But we did have some notable earnings reports today, everybody. I'm not sure if you saw that Salesforce, ticker symbol CRM, reported earnings today. They actually missed. I thought it was a pretty good report, but things are slowing down. They missed expectations. And the stock, I think, is down almost 20% after hours. Ooh, this guy's getting soaked. It sucks. kind of looks peaceful looking at it. Now that we're kind of under this awning and kind of under this canopy, and the weird thing is nobody really knew this was coming. Hey, what's up, Joey? Says, good evening, Tom and team. Looks like a dismal night in the city. Yeah, I mean, it was a beautiful day. Whoa, look at it coming down now. Jeez. Now, I'm behind a little bit of a barricade here, but the wind is crazy. I just put on the wind guard just in time. Well, let me see if I can clean the lens. Adam says lots of people weren't dressed for it, they weren't expecting. Now, there was a big event that just got out at Central Park. So all of the major financial firms in New York City, the hedge funds, like, they were having that annual charity race. It was like a run. So I think like JP Morgan Chase, saw a bunch of Schwab people, Alliance Bernstein, all of them were in Central Park for that race. Hopefully it's over now. I was seeing a lot of people out and about in it, but sunshine after rain, what's going on, Victor? Josie says, do I have an umbrella? You know, I don't. I don't have one. I do have one at the office, but I just left the office without it, unfortunately. I didn't know it was supposed to downpour. Jeff in Southern Tier, New York, what's going on? Yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute. Did anybody see the interview with Mark Benioff? Now we're under the awning at the Hilton Hotel. You can see some lightning strikes in the distance, but yeah, Salesforce missed pretty big, and I think they're down about 16% after hours. We'll see if we can navigate on the other side. Now, if you haven't been to the Hilton flagship since the pandemic, they completely renovated the entire thing. This is the main Hilton Midtown flagship. They have 2 brand new retail locations here. This brand new rotunda. This is kind of like the valet. They do have valet and they also have a taxi line. Alan says, is Salesforce miss a big surprise? I wouldn't say it's a big surprise. I think, you know, if you kind of talk about what happened right when the pandemic hit, anybody, chances are, if you were working in tech, particularly like software sales, you probably made a fortune. Because if you think about what happened, everybody was forced to work from home and work remote, so you needed the tools to be able to do that. So Salesforce is an enterprise software company. They really pioneered SaaS, like software as a service, but they sell CRM software, which is customer relationship management software. So if you watched Benioff's interview on Mad Money, one of my good buddies sent it to me, he kind of explains exactly that. There was so much pull forward in technology spend, and now things are kind of cooling a bit. But you know, if you actually do a deep dive in the report, they sold a ton of software. I mean, deals over $1 million in terms of $1 million ARR actually reached a new all-time record high at Salesforce. So, I mean, I don't think it was abysmal. I just think the market's potentially assigning a new valuation to the new normal of slower growth, I guess, for a lot of these enterprise software companies. Scott, yeah, umbrella rental. There's usually a bunch of these umbrella salesmen that come out and try to take advantage of the downpour here. I'll show you guys the other side. We'll navigate around. And this will be by the Alliance Bernstein building, where they have Fortress Investments. Now, Fortress is famous because of Mike Novogratz. This is Alliance Bernstein right here. Looks like the wind is a little bit worse on this side. Oh yeah, it's really bad on this side. You can kind of see like a waterfall running all the way down 54th Street. Look at that. I'm not sure if you guys, I don't know how well that makes out on the stream, but look at the water pooling up here. It's like Grand Rapids. Oof, oh my God. Whoa, that was a wild lightning strike. I have a feeling that this year, 2024, is going to break a record for the amount of rain in New York. Hey, Krog Dog, what's going on? Now, across the street, that is the Warwick Hotel. Anna, what's going on? The ABX girl, welcome. Brawlic Cabs, good to see you. The water's pulling up all the way down out to probably about a quarter of the way to the street. Now, briefly yesterday we talked about Cava and their earnings report. This is the first beat and raise quarter. So if you navigate to their investor relations page and download that deck, you can see a list of all the slides. And they beat on both the top and the bottom line, but they increased or raised guidance for the full fiscal year. Now, when I was digging a little bit deeper into it, I wish they would have provided a little bit more clarity as it relates to where they're going to be building most of their stores. And as we talked about, you know, a company like Chipotle probably has a much larger TAM than, you know, Mediterranean food. And I feel as if in big metropolitan cities like New York, Tampa, Miami, probably is going to have, you know, Boston, probably going to have a little bit better market for Mediterranean style food. Oh my gosh. Hey Peter, says Cava is coming out with some kind of steak dish. Yeah, I saw that too. Now here's the thing that everybody, like, that's obvious that everybody's talking about. It's the valuation is wild, right? The valuation is crazy. But if you look at historical trends, most of these hyper growth companies always trade at these nosebleed valuations. So the problem therein lies, and we'll kind of walk to the other side. Here's the problem. Well, not really the problem. if the next earnings report rolls around and they miss, even by a little bit, that thing's going to be down double digits. But so long as they continue to beat and raise guidance, this could be a pretty big TML. I think initially on the report, the stock was down, I think about 6% after hours. It gapped down to about the 21-day and rallied throughout the day, closing at almost the dead high. Hey, what's up, Tariq Khan? Oh, is it really? It's going to rain until 12 till midnight? That's a bummer. Well, we'll figure out what we're going to do. This is looking down towards Radio City. I don't know. When I looked at the radar, it said it was going to stop in 30 minutes. Adam Luke says, I don't know how he managed all these walks, research, sales, and newsletters. He must follow a religious routine, self-discipline. Yeah, I think it's just about the routine. Once you do something for 30 days, it feels quite systematic in nature. But yeah, I mean, at times, does it feel laborious? At times, of course. But there's a really good book we always talk about. It's called Atomic Habits by James Clear. And he kind of talks about this. Oh, look at these guys getting out of the cab here. But what he talks about is if you could just build something into your DNA, right? Essentially to say, this is what I do now, and I'm going to do it in perpetuity forever, and just hammer on it. You tend to build really good habits and systems, and just work those systems every day. So if we have to do the stream every night between 8:30 to 10:30, well, then we'll do it. And then if we write the research piece every other Thursday, well, then we do it. We send it out. In any event, in conclusion, if you can get through something and do an activity for 30 days, it's gonna, all of the agony and the laboriousness of doing that activity should fade away, and it should be routine to you. If anything, at a point it should start to feel, you should start to feel uncomfortable if you don't do those things. It's very strange. And that's why, you know, bad habits are really, really difficult to kick. Because you get super, super comfortable, and it's so uncomfortable to deviate from your habits and your patterns. There's another lightning strike. Hey, what's going on, Shell? I know. Ken Brockton says, I hope the food delivery bike guys are tipped well. You know, I haven't been seeing a lot of them out over the past 2 weeks now that you mention it. There's usually like a flurry of them. There's usually hundreds. Yeah, today's a non-moving stream. I forgot the umbrella. I didn't even know it was gonna, quite literally once we clicked record, it started to downpour, so you guys are gonna get very familiar with the lobby of the Hilton Hotel. You can see the very, very top of the Radio City Music Hall sign. and you see Schwab. Hey Cosmo, what's going on? Just how's life? Life is pretty good. I'm flying out early tomorrow morning. I'll be back in Florida, so.
It's raining mad hard right now. Out of nowhere. Out of nowhere, it started raining super hard. Fucking pissed. I don't know what to do.
But what about you, Cosmo? Everything good? Padillas' Nvidia continuing to rise as well. Now, I'll kind of issue, well, not issue a caution, I'll kind of give you my thoughts on that. Nvidia is really experiencing something that what's usually called an exhaustion gap. So at the end of major moves in a stock or in the market, you'll see consistent gap ups. Like it'll gap up on high volume. You could imagine like a car like going putt-putt when it's going out of gas. So who knows? I would be cautious here. I've known a lot of managers on the street blowing out a lot of stock here because it's just gone up so much and it's been an amazing run. Now it doesn't mean the thing is going to be cooked forever, but maybe it cools off and corrects and goes sideways or goes down. Whoa, you guys see that? And just maybe goes down for a month, 2 months. But yeah, a lot of fund managers that I know on the street, lots of selling into this strength today. Lots of money made. That guy has his window down, which sucks.
I wish I could just walk the park around real quick and grab an umbrella. Huh?
Ah, that's right. Costco's earnings are tomorrow, says Peter. Given how crowded my Costco store is, I hope it's stellar. Well, we'll see. I mean, usually you can kind of use like Walmart as a guide, kind of. Walmart had a pretty good report. Target was abysmal. We kind of talked about Target's earnings. They were horrible. I think it's just because the customer experience is lacking and Target's priced at a premium in terms of the goods and services they sell to Walmart. And I think people are sick of going in there and shopping when everything's locked up behind plexiglass. Ooh, that's another good strike. What's up, Dave? Good to see you. Hey, what's up, Mary? Good to see you. We're just checking out this crazy downpour. There's more lightning strikes there. Really, Harry, says the National Weather Service predicts 2 more hours of this? Oh, Maron. Adam says, do you work with other salespeople? Oops, just lost your comment. Says, do you work with other salespeople to do showings while you're away? With the money at stake, I could see a lot of competition and drama internally with other brokerages. Not really. I'm on a team. So we are the Kirsten Jordan team at Douglas Elliman. So essentially the listings that I'm on, either my coworkers will cover it, or I'll just kind of push it off till later. But that's the good thing about being on a team. Number one, you get more business, you do more deals. Usually you do higher ticket deals. But yeah, I mean, we're trying to start up a pretty big business in South Florida. That's to why I'm going to be headed there. Oof. But no, it's a good question. It's really, really good question for sure. Yeah, Kenny, I know. This has been the rainiest New York I've ever experienced in my life. It's been wild. But yeah, so we just closed on a penthouse in Red Hook, Brooklyn, which set an all-time record for Red Hook for the most expensive price per square foot of an apartment ever sold. Which is a pretty cool apartment, by the way. I filmed the property tour of it. I posted it up online. It's 199 Conover Street, Red Hook, Brooklyn, penthouse 3A. Now the developer's a really good guy. Red Hook Partners, Lee Cohen, he's a good friend of mine. Really talented developer. And he has a new building going up in Bay Harbor Islands, which I will be there, please God willing, tomorrow. Bay Harbor Islands, I think, is going to be the next big spot down there in South Florida to really get built up. If you want to look it up, the project is called Solina in Bay Harbor Island. Now there's an interesting new development that's coming up in New York, well, in Manhattan, and Baupost Group is going to be a part of that. So that's Seth Klarman. If anybody's read the book Margin of Safety by Seth Klarman, he's one of the greatest value investors of all time. They have a pretty cool project coming up soon here in Manhattan. Padilla says, I'd love to do real estate one day. Banking just provides a stable, predictable income. Yeah, I would stick to banking, in my opinion. The real estate sales is actually not a good business model. The best business model is what I'm coming from, selling subscription services of software and telecom. That's the best business model. You want predictable repeat revenue. That is the best and most lucrative, by the way. High margins, crazy margins. But I want to build buildings and build projects. So, yeah, it's, you know, in order to do that, and especially in a city like New York, you really got to be around the top people, and you got to be, you know, willing not to have stability. So unless it's something like you really want to do, like, wow, it'd be really cool to, build condos in Manhattan or build offices in Manhattan. Like if that's like a passion, then I'd say go for it. But if it's not and you're just trying to do it as a money play, I wouldn't advise it because number one, it's very capital intensive, so it's going to cost you a lot of money and you're not guaranteed to make any money on it. It's a very difficult business. Hey, neighbor Bob's. Tom, Cava is on fire. If you bought a couple months ago, it's up around 50%. Yeah, I mean, it was a pretty impressive earnings report they had yesterday. It's cracked open out of this IPO base. Now, I'm telling you, this book, and in all honesty, my friend wrote the book. Disclaimer. The book is called The Life Cycle Trade. Highly, highly recommend you read it. Once again, it's called The Life Cycle Trade by Eve Bobach and Kathy Donnelly. And in that book, it is a complete study, essentially a case study, of every single stock that's ever gone public through its life cycle, particularly an IPO for the first year or two of trading. And essentially, it's all about how do they trade and what are the characteristics of a winning IPO, right? What are the expectations in terms of a beat that you want to look for? It's not only enough to see a company beating, revenue or earnings estimates. It's by how much, right? Because if a lot of these IPOs are commanding a crazy premium, they're priced so high, they got to be blowing out their numbers to perform. So it's an awesome book. I would highly recommend it. Life Cycle Trade. Oh, that was a nice lightning strike. Brad. Well, Cava is breaking out of an IPO base, so like a stage 1 base. New England Crypto says, Tom, did you see Jenner's tweets? Let me see. Think it's a deep fake, or you think it's really him, her, they, them? I don't know anything about that. Who's Jenner? I'm not really into the they, them stuff. Like, I respect everybody, they can do whatever they want. I just don't understand any of it, so I just try to, I try to stay out of it. I don't understand it. Brad's brains is, speaking of IPOs, my DJT shares are still down significantly. I don't even think that's a real company. I know people are buying it for like a laugh, but I think the company, Truth Social, last quarter lost about $300 million on $3 million in revenue. I don't even know if that's like a real company or if it's just some type of, I don't know. I just try to stay out of it. Neighbor Bob says, Tom, do you think chaos will ensue either way when the Trump jury decides his fate? I don't think so. I really don't think so. And here's how I can kind of explain that. When you're out and about at work, just normally with friends, is anybody really talking about it or really paying attention? Not really, not in my world. Nobody really ever brings it up. It's obviously, if you ever turn on CNN, I'm assuming that's all they talk about is the Trump trial, this and that. Like, look, it's going to play its course, whether you think it's nonsense or not. I think it'll be fine. I don't think there's going to be any riots. It's just the media puts out these stories to scare the shit out of people, honestly. They're like, we're coming up on a new civil war. It's bullshit. It's not going to happen. It's all nonsense. And this is actually where I disagree with Ray Dalio. But I have a lot of respect for Ray Dalio. But he is a multi-billionaire. A multi-billionaire. And what does that mean? That means he's detached from reality, right? He's an older guy. He doesn't hang out with normal people. He hangs out with other billionaires in multi-million-dollar properties, eating at the best restaurants. And so what he knows about the common man and woman is he watches CNN and Fox News. And if you watch CNN and Fox News, well, guess what? You would think that the sky is falling and that everybody's at each other's throats and all that stuff. But like, I think there's a zero, and again, I could be wrong, but there's a 0% likelihood that there's ever going to be some real serious civil unrest in America, like civil war. That's my opinion. I mean, think about it. Like, would you guys like pick up a gun and fight in the Civil War? Fuck no. I want to go walk around the city and live stream and sell real estate and study companies and trade stocks. Why do I need to fight other people for in my own country? It's ridiculous. And that's how the majority of normal people who have jobs and careers and who are normal, that's how they think. It's just the media sensationalizing, and it's all nonsense. JJ says, Tom says something non-glowing about billionaires. Well, it is true that you have to have self-awareness. And when you are in those social circles at like the very, very top rung, you can kind of get detached from what it's like to show up to an office every day, you know, work a regular 9-to-5 job, you know, have kids and do things like that. So the only thing that they see is just the crazy sensationalism, right? If you turn on Fox News, the only thing you see is, you know, the encampments and people chanting "Death to America," when in reality it's just a very, very small minority of, you know, non-binary students on a college campus, right? When the lion's share of normal people are just trying to go about their day, take their classes, and be normal. It's the same thing on the other side. So, but sensationalism drives the headlines. Sensationalism drives the clicks. All right, I think we're gonna go all the way down to Grand Central. The rain has mostly stopped, I think. Michael says, if you go to work every day, you don't have time to worry about the hype media. It's true. And look, it's not to say that I'm downplaying and saying that there's no problems in America. There are problems, but the media turns it up to a 10, okay? The reality is it's probably at about a 4, which is still bad. But the average American who's a normal average American Democrat or a normal average American Republican is not at each other's throats and is not going to go pick up a gun and fight a civil war. It's just not going to happen. Because that's nonsense. It's stupid. I know Mark says, I'm seeing people walk around in t-shirts. Were they expecting the downpour? Not at all. This came out of nowhere. Hence why I'm taking shelter, taking cover in this hotel. I just came out of the office and I had no idea it was gonna rain. But look, it's the summer in New York City. It's humid, so at least it's not cold. I mean, if I get all wet walking to the train, it's not the end of the world. It's quite warm out. It's probably mid-70s, so it's not all that bad. Hey, Robert. This is new to the channel, loving it. Thank you, Robert, for being here. Appreciate it.
Lower East Side, 53 Ludlow.
I mean, Avenue of the Americas does look kind of nice when it rains, because everything is illuminating off of the Radio City Music Hall sign. Now, an interesting predicament that's happening in the market is energy's kind of rolling over, right? And from what our original thought was at the time, crude was really catching a pretty nice bid.
Having a lot of fun.
Now we're kind of rolling over, and the XLE is kind of rolling over too, which that's actually good news for inflation. You know, many of us, particularly including myself, I'm like, look, crude oil is trending higher into the summer. This is probably going to be one of the most trafficked summers ever in terms of tourists and things like that for travel. You know, I thought you were going to see crude back in the 90s. It's actually done quite the polar opposite and come down, which is actually good news. I mean, we don't want people paying an arm and a leg for gas. But then again, it's still young, we'll see. Oh yeah, there was big M&A activity today in oil and gas, right? What were the two big companies? I forget, I saw it on the, I was looking at it briefly, but stocks only go up as the economy is so weak, there's no demand for oil. I don't know about that. Interesting thought. You're right, Peter. ConocoPhillips is buying Marathon Oil for $17 billion. Was it a stock deal, stock transaction, or what? Yeah, Tariq Khan's all plays on Guyana oil. There's an interesting mini documentary series about that. Check this out. It's a pretty cool view of 432 Park. Captain Kirk says, Tom, what are your thoughts on gold and silver prices? If you type !news, N-E-W-S, in the chat, or check your email, last Thursday I think I put gold and silver in as a pretty big piece in the newsletter, but gold is broken out from a monster base. It's consolidating here. This year has been one of the best years on record for gold. I think the big thing that really depends is inflation going to be sustained at 3%? Now, did anybody get a chance to listen to Minneapolis Fed President Neil Kashkari yesterday? Well, he says that Americans should expect sustained inflation. Essentially, 3% is the new 2%. All right, we'll give it 5 more minutes, and then I think this is going to pass. I was looking at the radar. We'll give it 5 more minutes and then we'll walk to Penn Station.
You got it. I'm gonna just track it out.
Saris's rate hikes are possible. I think that would send the markets through a tailspin. I don't know if there'll be hikes. I mean, maybe you're right. You know, they always say the most unlikely outcome is the highest probability. And everybody on Wall Street, everybody on the street this year, everything that they were talking about is, it's not when we're going to have a rate cut, it's going to be how many. Right, everybody was pricing in at least 75 basis points worth of cuts by the end of the year. And many people said they thought the first cut was going to be June. I mean, do you guys remember us talking about that? It's already June. There's not no way in hell that they're going to cut rates next month, in the next 2 weeks. There's no way. There's just no way. So maybe it's going to be a complete 180 from what everybody was thinking, and maybe we're going to have to actually do another rate hike. Now tomorrow, what is tomorrow, Thursday or Wednesday? I don't even know. That's so crazy. I don't know that. I think tomorrow's Thursday. In any event, if it is, I think we're going to get the PCE data out tomorrow. So we're going to get more inflation data out. Marks is Tom. I don't see any adjustments to the rates for the remainder of the year. You may be right. Tariq Khan's Whopper pricing today versus 2020. Didn't Burger King come out and say that they're going to have a new discounted $5 meal? I actually kind of like this style live stream. I'm just standing here hanging out, chatting with you guys. It's actually kind of fun. Brad's Brain. This is Tom. I did a little bit of retirement calculating yesterday, and I plugged 3% as the expected inflation rate. It's definitely here to stay. Now, to be honest, if you calculate your true personal inflation rate, it's probably way higher than 3%. For me, it's double digits. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but for me, it's been double digits inflation. And do you know what was my biggest? Hey, what's up? Oh, dude, thank you so much.
We live right there. We're watching it.
Oh, really? Oh, thank you. That's so funny. Thank you so much, man. Hey, nice meeting you.
Yeah, man, absolutely.
Hey, take care. Nice meeting you too. I appreciate it. I'll return it. I'll be around. Okay. Thank you, man. That's so funny. These guys came up and gave me an umbrella. They live across the street. All right, we're on the moving end team. That's so funny. But my, what's it called? My highest expense has been insurance. There's a big problem in South Florida, I'm sure, as you guys can imagine why, right? Hurricanes, natural disasters, climate change, all the good stuff. My insurance premium it hasn't gone up that much year over year, but since I bought my place, it's gone up significantly. It's not, well, let me rephrase that. It's not that it's gone up significantly, it's just the change between New York to Florida norms. Does that make sense? So in New York, your insurance would probably be, a few $100s a year. In South Florida, mine is like $5,000 a year for just to insure my house. It's absolutely ridiculous. But again, that's the cost of living in paradise, I guess. Same thing could go for parts of California. Oh, big collision on the food delivery bike. I heard that from here. Anna says we got you covered. I appreciate that very, very much. Much appreciated. Marty says my apartment insurance went up a whole lot this year as well. The only thing that's saving me is that I don't have a vehicle. That's the only thing that's kind of saving me. because apparently auto insurance has gone up the most. Anyone here, your auto insurance went up a ridiculous amount, or you still? I know, for all the Cavs, right? Oof. D says yours went up a lot. Yeah, I mean, owning things is good, but they're really the only fixed thing you have is your mortgage. You know, there's floating cost, technically. The biggest one is taxes. That's guaranteed to always go up, unfortunately. And then number two is the cost of insurance. Hold on, I gotta pick this up for a second. All right, we're good. ERB, what's up? Captain Kirk says my flood insurance went from $700 to $2,000 this year. Holy crap, man. Yeah, I mean, I think that's the biggest risk down there. Now, although it's not all from the hurricanes, I think that a lot of it is from the fraud. There was a big roofing fraud crisis, I guess, in South Florida a while ago. Peter says I just paid my insurance, homeowners insurance. Oh, here in Tennessee, went from up $170 per year. Auto went up $200. Now, once self-driving really gets cranked up and kicked in, our insurance premium's gonna plummet, hopefully. We'll see. Walter R says, do you have a Bloomberg terminal? I do not have a Bloomberg terminal. I sometimes borrow friends, or I just walk across the street to the library and use it, but I do not personally have one. Oops. Look at that. Yeah, that's true. Austin city limits is also the cost of building materials. Yeah, replacement cost. True. Very, very true. Now, one thing we talked about, or we spoke about before, again, a lot of those older condos in South Florida, if you look on some of the listing services, what you'll see is, wow, there's a 2-bedroom condo, actually it's an affordable price. Well, what I'm seeing are a lot of sellers that are trying to front run these big special assessments that are coming down the pike. So yeah, maybe you score a deal and get something that's pretty cheap, But maybe in a year or two, you're going to get banged with a major special assessment that could be 5 figures. You know, I mean, in very rare, crazy cases, you know, you have these 6-figure special assessments. So what's going to happen is a lot of developers are probably going to do like hostile takeovers of some of these buildings. This is Adele's Famous here. Meaning they'll probably go to each individual unit owner and offer them like 1.5x the value of their property just to sell their unit. Once the developer acquires all of them, or a certain amount, they can proceed to knocking down the entire building. And then, guess what? The land value is actually worth more than the entire building that's on the land. That's what's crazy now. Because once you knock it down, well, now you could build big, brand new, beautiful, up-to-date condominiums, and you could achieve really high price per square foot. That's probably really the only saving grace. Someone says street vendor sushi sounds safe. Oh God. Well, I will say this. Never ever, so I'm never going to eat from one of these food cart guys again, to be honest, but especially never eat from them when it's raining. Because when it's raining, the carts are not very secure, so all the rain goes into the food and all that. And I got so sick last year from eating from one, so I'm like not going to eat from a food vendor ever again in life.
Sure.
Just passing News Corporation. And then we're going to come up on Salesforce, who's down pretty big after hours on earnings. But what are you guys thinking about tomorrow for the PCE? Do we think inflation's going to run hot, or do we think we're going to cool off a little bit? JPEG, we're not on 5th Avenue, we are on 6th Avenue, or Avenue of the Americas. And Gibson says you don't have to return the umbrella, but if you do, bring it by the... Oh, that's you who owns that place. Let me see, Chase the Fox on 53rd and 3rd. So that's right, guys. If you're in the city, we have a viewer that actually owns a store, like a pretty cool gift store on 53rd. Let me see, hold on, 53rd and 3rd, or was that 5th? On 53rd and 3rd Avenue. It's called Chase the Fox Co. So check it out. If anybody's in the neighborhood, support local businesses in New York. I'll check it out. I'll stop by. I work not too far away. 53rd and 3rd Chase the Fox Co. I'm down. Oops. Paul says you're gonna wage your PC will be up. We'll see. Someone says, where is it more expensive to live, New York or LA? I guess it really all depends on which location you live. I don't know. Never been to LA. I would say New York is probably more expensive because of the just a higher tax burden. And the rents are probably a little bit higher. But I think Coral Gables in Miami just took the #1 spot for the most expensive neighborhood. I think the #1 most expensive neighborhood in America was, I want to say Calabasas, California. I don't know if that's true. It was some neighborhood in California though. Although it was. Now it's Coral Gables in Miami, which is a really nice, really nice neighborhood. That's where the University of Miami is. In the Gables. Which makes sense because you've seen a lot of really high paying jobs relocating to downtown Miami and Brickell, and Coral Gables is southwest of that. It's like a suburb. You could think about it like Nassau County, Long Island. That's kind of like what the Coral Gables is. Really nice homes, really expensive. Haven't been there in a long time. Maybe I'll have to stop by. Here you have the Empire in the distance.
Are you going all the way down?
On the corner of 43rd Street. Alright, we got the light. Hopefully this stops by tomorrow, so it doesn't delay any of the flights. All right, right on time, Salesforce Tower. So if you just go on CNBC.com or just type in CRM earnings, watch the most recent interview that just took place 6 o'clock tonight with Benioff and Kramer. And it pretty much details the change in enterprise software spend. Although, even though the stock had a really bad reaction to earnings, they still sold a lot of software, like a lot. This was a new all-time record for deals closed under over $1 million in ARR, annual reoccurring revenue. But they did miss on both the top and the bottom line. And messaging from management has been that since growth has cooled a little bit, they're going to try to double down, if not triple down, on maximizing gross margin, which probably is due to that activist investor that came in, bought a pretty large chunk of the company. Hey, Mike, New York. What's up, Mike? Tom, what is your impression of Fort Lauderdale? Is it better than Miami? I don't think so. And when I was going to move down there, I was looking at Fort Lauderdale and I decided against it. Because Fort Lauderdale floods a lot more than Miami. You'd be surprised, but it does. Particularly the airport. Now, when you have really, really crazy torrential downpour rains, Fort Lauderdale Airport turns into a swimming pool. So personally, I think Miami is a little bit better, and I think it'll also be insulated from some of the volatility because you have a lot of job growth there. Fort Lauderdale, from the people that I know that live there, are later on in their careers really, wealthy, just buying a nice place on the water. But if you kind of want to be on the ground floor of where a lot of younger people are moving to, for work, for jobs, for careers, I would say in and around Miami-Dade is probably a little bit better. Now, it doesn't mean you have to be smack dab in the middle of downtown Miami. You could head a little bit further north, right? Sunny Isles Beach, Florida is really nice. North Miami Beach, Miami Gardens, that whole area. This guy just blew that red light. But for me, I think Fort Lauderdale is a little bit too far away from the action. If you live in Miami, you have the best beaches, and then you have the city. Wynwood, downtown Miami, Brickell. You're closer to the Gables. It just feels like you're more solidified in everything. But I do like Fort Lauderdale. Someone says, imagine how investment in New York City will crater if they decide to lock up Trump. Now, I will give you a little bit of an insight. I have been on conference calls where a big area of concern has been exactly kind of you could call it, political revenge trials we have going on. And it's made a lot of people uncomfortable. I've been on the phone with some firms that just won't look at deals in the city or in the state of New York because of this. But that's what kind of creates these pockets of opportunity. And I think it's investors potentially buying into the sensationalism of it all. Like, I respect both sides of the opinion, however you think about it. I think it's ridiculous, but it's not going to stick, and you're going to see big changes here. So I think this temporary mispricing, I think a lot of people are going to miss out on it, unfortunately. uncertainty and fear creates mispricing. Mispricing creates an opportunity for you to generate alpha or returns. And you can make money in any market. There's a lot of opportunity. Particularly now in New York City with a lot of these foreclosure auctions on office buildings. Some really, really good, solid office buildings that are just unfortunately vacant because there's been a major shift in how we work, and also a migration from Class B office towers to more of the Class A quality. You can pick them up very, very cheap and repurpose them or knock them down and build new product, and you'll make a lot of money. And people are already doing that. There's already deals being done. Well, look, the city is cyclical just like anything else. And I think they need to look forward. Like when I'm on a lot of these calls with some of these investors, I tell them to look out. Just like the market looks forward 6 months. It's going to be a very different New York in 6 months. But also, I think a lot of people have to remember that the economy is giant. Giant, like massive. And there's always going to be deals getting done, regardless of what people think. Just because the pool of capital is so huge. Like we're looking to buy. So the way our team is set up, the main arm of our team is real estate sales. Oh, look at how cool this is. So we specialize on the higher end condos in Manhattan. But we also have a development company, Colonnade, where we build buildings. Right, so Kirsten Jordan is our team leader. Her husband is a very well-known real estate developer from Italy, and we've been shopping a lot of deals. Like we tried to bid, we did bid on that deal next to the Sherry Netherland. We didn't get it, we lost it. That's a great property, but we're still shopping a lot of stuff. And I think there's a lot of money to be made. But I do acknowledge that narrative where people, investors, they'll say, hey, I'll give you the money. If you're looking to raise money, I'll give you the money. I just don't want my money being deployed in New York right now. That is true. I've had those conversations. Is it everybody? No, it's not everybody. Is it some people? Yeah, it's some people. But I think they'll come around. It just needs time. Things need to settle down a little bit. And, another one I hear a lot is, I'm a little bit nervous because I feel as if New York City is going to turn into San Francisco. New York City is not going to turn into San Francisco. And if anything, San Francisco is going to turn around. If you walk the streets of New York, right, throughout Midtown Manhattan, yeah, you're going to have you're going to have some rough spots. But nothing like in San Francisco, dude. Not even close. It's not even close to that. Usually when things are at its worst and people think it's going to get even worse, that's kind of when it turns around. And you're seeing that. If I'm being transparent and honest, and we do a live broadcast, right? We do a live show. The city has been steadily improving. The neighborhood in and around Penn Station, that thing just used to be an absolute horror show. It's actually quite nice now. I don't see the amount of homelessness that I saw before there. I don't really see any heroin needles anymore. There was there was a stretch of like 6 to 8 months in the city where I would see heroin needles littering all around Penn Station, from 34th Street all the way down to 32nd. I don't see any of that anymore. And I think that's because the mayor, right, regardless of what you think of him, right, if you like the guy, if you don't like the guy, that's not the point. He has been kind of like a law and order mayor. The problem is, it's the DAs in the city that are kind of butting heads with the mayor's office, Mayor Eric Adams. I mean, the guy was a police officer, so he has a very good relationship with the NYPD. He knows about policing, he knows his stuff. He wants to clean up the city, but you just have these legal hurdles you got to get through. So some of the hot spots in New York have gotten cleaned up in a major way. I think it's going to continue to get better. Do we have a lot of work to do? Oh yeah, we have a ton of work to do. But I think it's good to acknowledge the work that has been done. I think the next big step for New York, like the next huge monumental step that I think would really turn this thing around, is really make the subway feel safe. Now, it feels safe to me because I'm a guy, but like I wouldn't feel the best knowing that my sister is going to be taking the 6 train at 2 o'clock in the morning coming home from work, right? Probably not the best idea. So I think when we can get back to a place where, we get a lot of these mentally disturbed individuals out of the subway and into, an institution where they could actually get help, instead of having these manic mental episodes on the subway. Because at the end of the day, these people have mental health issues and they can't help it. It's not like they mean to do this. And I'm not using that as a cop-out or a cope, but I think we just need to come to terms with reality. The people doing the lion's share of the crime, the violent crime, in the subway are people that are very mentally and emotionally disturbed, like they have an issue. And they lash out in the subway system. They need to not be in the subway. They need to be institutionalized where they can get help. They could get the appropriate medications, get the appropriate rehabilitation. They're not going to get any better if they're laying around in the subway all day. I think everybody can agree with that. It's quite obvious. I think it's on the right-ish path down there in the subway, but once they get that cleaned up, I think you're good. Yeah, someone put a comment in the chat about the Fulton Street station, Fulton Street. Now, I don't really spend a whole lot of time down there, but yeah, that mall where they had like the couple coffee shops, the Haagen-Dazs, I guess that's closed down for good now. All of the retail in there at the Fulton Street train station. Because of theft. I never really saw many people shopping in those places anyway. Since it opened, I never really saw a whole lot of traffic there. But that's true. That's another one. Hey, what's up, Deborah? ERB, this is when I visited the city in the year 2000. I took the subway. It was pretty safe down there. And it's pretty safe now, right? And that may sound like I'm contradicting myself, but I'm not. Like, generally speaking, okay, if you look at the data, if you ride the subway, you're more than likely not going to have a violent problem. Will you run into like episodes of crazy people flipping out? Yeah. Like I run into that all the time. A disturbed person on the train. But it's not like they attack you. It's just that, they may get very loud and scary and violent, which is a major problem, right? More so on the lines of intimidation. And then you'll have that kind of tail risk, so to speak, of them maybe pushing you in front of a train or somebody in front of a train. But the lion's share of the system is a safe system. I ride it every day. But again, you have those anomalies where things can happen. Yeah, John says also depends on the time of day, and it just also depends on situational awareness, right? If it's a crowded subway car at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and everybody's coming home from work, well, you're probably not gonna have a problem, because even if there is a crazy person, they're less likely to do something because you're surrounded by so many people. But if you're singled out on the train, well, you may have a little bit of a problem, that's all. Robert says, how about just using Uber? Well, maybe if I was Jamie Dimon, I would use Uber a lot more than I do now. Uber's expensive in the city, crazy expensive. And Uber's especially expensive if you take an Uber to the airport. I mean, my God. Now, I usually don't take the Uber to the airport. I usually just what's it called? AirTrain, well, Jamaica to the AirTrain, and then AirTrain to JFK, which is max $15 for everything. But if it's raining out like it is right now and you try to get an Uber to JFK or LaGuardia, it's probably going to cost you over $120. It's probably going to be like $120, $125. But it's interesting that people say that, right? Because that's what many of the city's lawmakers and the elites think, right? They're like, if it's dangerous, just take the subway. Well, that's the whole point we're trying to make, is that all of this crime, it's a mere inconvenience for rich people, because to your point, they'll just take an Uber. I don't give a shit, right? Or they'll just, their company probably has a perk where they have a driver that takes them to the office. But for most people, they have to take the train every day. So all of these policies that are meant to help, people from lower socioeconomic status and, as the city calls them, protected communities, it actually endangers them even more. And that's what creates that big divide, right? Because if you're living in Queens, if you're living in the Bronx, and you have to wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning to get your kids to school, drop them off at school, then take the subway to work, well, you're spending probably about 10% of your day in the subway system. That increases the odds something's going to happen to you. But, let's say if you're a banker, you work in tech, or you're a doctor, you're a lawyer, whatever. You're like, I'm so sick of seeing everything on the news. I'm just going to take an Uber. Some people can't afford to be spending like $50, $60 a day on an Uber. It's expensive. It adds up.
This way, they're here.
All right, everybody, if you're enjoying the live stream so far, feel free to leave a like on the video and click the subscribe button if you're new. We do these live streams almost every day, starting at 8:30. Whoops. I just got to plug in my phone. Give me a second. La da 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 da. Yeah, 8:45-ish. True. True. All right, friends. Wow, this is one Uber trip on average is $35. That's expensive. Look at the Empire. So here's the last thing I'll kind of say on the topic, but I think it's a good topic to talk about because it does tie into the financial markets, right? And you really need to look at the cyclicality of New York. And I think the biggest thing is this is not like New York's first rodeo with the city getting a little bit dirtier and a little bit less safe. This isn't New York's first rodeo with this. Okay, New York has been through many of these drawdowns before. And if you look back throughout history, what happens? Well, the city tends to do a 180. They elect a mayor who's maybe a little bit too aggressive on, crime and punishment, and then things get better each and every time. So think about New York like a stock chart, right? It goes up and then you go down, goes up and then it goes down, but every time it goes down, it never gets as bad as it was before. Again, that's not a cop-out. There's problems in the city. But this has happened since, my parents were kids. And my grandmother was a kid growing up in New York. Down here is Take 31. There's too much old money, power, and influence. And New York City is too much of an iconic city to go by the ways of like a Detroit. I was reading this opinion piece, which was like the most cartoonishly ridiculous, out of touch opinion piece about how New York City is going to turn into the next Detroit. And I couldn't even finish reading it. It was so nonsensical. And the person's probably never been in New York City once. It's just a bunch of, hyperbolic talking points. There's so much history, and New York is such an iconic city. Like, I don't think people realize. When it's nice out in New York, the amount of tourists, the amount of people on the street is unbelievable. You don't have people flying in all over the country and all over the world to vacation in Detroit. All right, this is a great spot. It's called Take 31. And right next to it, right here, is Her Name is Han. I believe it's the same owner who owns both restaurants. If you're into Korean food, I would highly, highly recommend checking out both of these spots. It's quite hard to get a reservation. So if you walk in, probably should walk in maybe on a weekday as opposed to a weekend. But check him out. Her Name is Han and Take 31. Hey, Ken Brockton. This is Careful Tom. Detroit's population is increasing. It is expected to gain. No, yeah, I'm just making like a general comparison, right? And I guess the premise of the article was that New York is going to turn into what Detroit turned into when a lot of the manufacturing left. But I always use this, and I think this is the best approach. It's called follow the money, right? Where is the VC investment flowing, particularly? I think that's the most important, is where are these VC dollars flowing? And contrary to what you might think, right, over the past few years since the pandemic started, everyone was like, oh wow, Austin, Texas is a big boom town, which it is. And I love Austin, right? I'm not saying anything against it, I'm just making a comparison. You know, a lot of the investment dollars and job growth happened in Miami, right? That's true. But if you look, and you can look this up for yourself, the overall amount of venture capital investment still to this day by a long shot, right? Not by a little, but by a long shot, is in San Francisco and New York. With a double, if not triple down on San Francisco, by the way. So the biggest thing to look for in a city is population growth and talent. The problems start to happen when the talent leaves. When you start to see the talent, which is, you know, the intellectual capital, people that are very well educated, went to top schools, founders, by a long shot, they're still choosing cities like San Francisco to start their companies, to start their businesses, and cities like New York. So if that's the case, we can make an educated guess and say, all right, well, these cities are going through a tough time, but you're starting to see the fundamentals go up. While yes, the crime and everything is getting out of control, but it's the people, it's the job creation, right? It's the growth. The other stuff will take care of itself as the populace votes for new representation. So that's what you call potentially an edge. You could say, all right, I'll make an educated guess to say, I think this will probably turn around. Because can you imagine, right? Imagine a world where they actually do deplete all the crime in San Francisco. That's going to be the most expensive place to live on the planet. And they're fire sailing a lot of real estate right now in San Francisco. Now that's a big if, right? That's a big if they ever solve the crime situation. But they've proven they can do it. When the Communist Chinese Party came in, they kicked all the homeless people to the curb, and they're like, get the hell out of here. We got the CCP coming to town. And it was actually quite nice. So they can do it. It's just, I don't think the current leadership is going to be the people to do it. Unless you have Xi Jinping, you know, there 24/7, 365. So. All right, we're right out front of Empire State Building. Now, more broadly speaking, I know we've been talking a lot about specific cities. I think in general, America as a country, many people think it's peaked. I actually think it's at a little bit of a trough, and I think we're going to be climbing on our way up. And that's mainly due to all these new technologies that are coming out, like AI, automation, robotics. Because guess what? And you know, this is making it sound a little bit insensitive, but we're talking about a business sense. It's going to diminish the value of, let me figure out how I should put this. It's going to diminish the value of cheap labor overseas. That's what I'll say. So there's going to be no need to build products and outsource jobs overseas anymore, because we can have the infrastructure to have all the manufacturing capabilities stateside in the US, because the vast majority of it is going to be automated by robots. Now, many of you are like, oh, well, that's bad because there's going to be no jobs for Americans. That's not true. There's going to be a whole different subset of jobs that are created. We just don't really know what those jobs are yet. So, if anything, we're potentially going to go further into this massive innovation renaissance, not only with AI, not only with machine learning, but ding, 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 with manufacturing. I mean, would you ever believe that in a trillion years? You know, the big narrative, right, one of the biggest talking points is, the US, we don't make anything anymore. Well, number one, that's not true. It's been more like intangible goods, right? We've been through a software renaissance, right? All the major top software companies, SaaS, is in US, okay? All of them. One of them which just reported today, Salesforce. But physical goods, yes, that have been manufactured overseas. I think all that's coming back, which is going to be great for Team USA and Team Canada, for all of our Canadians and our Mexican friends too. Look at this Christmas tree shop. So the economies of US, Mexico, and Canada, and we're very strategically located, by the way, because our neighbors are fantastic neighbors, right? We've never fought with the Canadians. You know, Canadians are just pretty much the same as us. They just talk a little bit funny. And we're really good friends with Mexico. The only thing we need to do is wage war on the cartels, and Mexico's economy will probably boom too with the reshoring and manufacturing capacity. So I think it's never been a better time to be an American. I mean, look, would you rather live in Europe? I mean, no offense to anybody who's watching from Europe. I love Europe, but just strategically, it's not really a good look compared to US, Canada, and Mexico. Hey, what's up, Todd? Mike, and this is Tom. Ever visited Vancouver? Any insights on the market there? I haven't. I was planning a trip to Canada quite literally a week before the world shut down with the pandemic, so I wasn't able to go. But if I can find time, maybe I'll do that this summer. I'll take a trip to Canada. So we're coming up to Penn Station, and you can get the Amtrak train. Apparently one of the most scenic train rides in the world, not the country, but the world, is that train ride from New York City's Penn Station all the way up to Canada to Vancouver. Am I thinking about the right one, or am I getting confused? I feel like I always mix this one up. Or is it Montreal? Could someone Google that real quick? I'm actually very curious now. What's the most scenic train ride? It's Penn Station to what major city in Canada? Dave's been to Montreal and visit Toronto for a quick trip. I've been to Toronto, haven't been in a long time. It was a nice city, but I feel as if I want to visit Canada, I want to go to another city besides Toronto. Toronto's too much like New York. you know, big skyscrapers, very similar. Yeah, Montreal, that's it. Montreal. Right. It's Montreal. I'll just have to figure out how to speak French. Otto's has come to Vancouver. I'll show you around. I'm down. What's the best time of year to visit Vancouver? I don't want to be freezing, that's the only thing. So maybe June, July. Take a quick trip to Vancouver. Joel PM says go with the translator. Well, I have my Chat GPT. I think the new version of GPT-4 is going to come fully equipped with full translation. Alright, let's take a quick walk around the perimeter of the new Penn 2 project by Vornado. So this will be a good example to kind of see what we've been talking about with the city making some much needed improvements to the Penn district. It used to be really rough. It used to be a lot of, you know, lots of not so good stuff going on over here. But now it's actually quite nice. We've been here many times, but maybe for those of you who are new, let me close this umbrella. I think and doesn't this look like a night and day difference from what it used to look like? The biggest thing is about making open space. I don't know if we have any police officers in the chat or any ex-law enforcement, but an interesting fact I learned from a police studies course that I took in college is when you build infrastructure or public infrastructure that's more open and, you know, not extremely low ceilings, crime actually decreases. That's why if you look at the comp stats in New York City, and we actually looked at this in one of our classes, there's more violent crime in terms of just like, and like theft too, that happens on the street under scaffolding, as opposed to open space. So the more you can open it up, the safer it gets. It's weird. I don't know why that is. Maybe it's the criminals don't have a place to hide, or, you know, it's just they're out in the open. But it's true. And this used to be horrible here. This is all brand new. I mean, the ceiling heights here must be like 30 feet, 50 feet. If you guys are enjoying the live stream so far tonight, feel free to leave a like on the video and click the subscribe button if you're new. We do these streams every night, usually starting at 8:45. Oh, by the way, if you look at our community page, by the way, our YouTube community page, I just posted our most up-to-date schedule. So if you want to know what time we're going to be live, what time we're going to be posting videos, sending out the newsletters, you can check that out. I just posted the schedule. One more look at the new Penn 2 project. Hey, Dock 7. What's going on? Indeed, Renado. Look at this Los Tacos. It's almost 11 o'clock at night. It's packed. Should we try to go inside Penn Station? We'll try to go inside Penn Station. Let's do it. Now, speaking of crime, it may have just been a Memorial Day like anomaly, but I saw some crazy wild action over the past few days inside Penn Station. Okay, so this is the brand new entrance to New York City's Penn Station. You can get the Long Island Railroad, New Jersey Transit, and Amtrak. And for those Long Islanders, you'll notice a major difference. Number one, with the ceiling heights. If you look all the way in the back, that's how low the ceilings used to be. Now they've elevated all of the ceilings throughout Penn, and they've done an amazing job. It's, I mean, if you haven't been to Penn Station in 2 or 3 years, this should look totally different to you. You may not even believe that we're in Penn Station. And almost all of the stuff is open now. You have a Shake Shack. You have Dos Toros. I think they're gonna have a Chick-fil-A. So you have Dos Toros, you have Shake Shack. Whatever this thing is, Raising Cane's. Chick-fil-A, Starbucks. But I mean, it looks so much better than what it used to look like. For context, if you guys are wondering, that's how low the ceiling heights used to be throughout the entire station, if you can believe that. So if you see the sign that says Subway 1, 2, or 3, and the little handicap sign, that's how low the ceilings used to be throughout the entire station. It used to be the most claustrophobic thing ever. Now it's quite nice. Sometimes I can't even think back and even imagine how low the ceilings were, now that everything is so open and airy. Like, I can't even imagine what that must have been like. I almost forget. Anyway, they did a great job. Major improvement. I would walk all the way under, but I don't think there's any internet, so let's try to head back. And with the escalator up, they made it so that the Empire State Building, the spire, is perfectly centered right at the top of the escalator. You'll be able to see it here in a minute. So when you walk out, the first thing you see is the Empire, which is great. Esmeralda, this is how far back does it go? It goes pretty far back. So the New Jersey Transit side, they haven't done yet. So if you walk all the way to the back to the New Jersey Transit terminal, it's still kind of old and kind of gross. I don't know if they're going to do any renovations to that, but the Long Island Railroad and the Amtrak got the most renovations by far. By far. So to conclude the stream, we'll give it one good college try. I'll try to take you guys into the Moynihan train hall, which is absolutely beautiful, but there's no internet in there, which is, I mean, they got to fix that. I mean, you have a $1 billion train station and there's physically no internet. I've tried T-Mobile, no service in there. Verizon, no service. This is the new pickleball place. This is one of the most popular things I've ever seen. People are obsessed with this. Let's see if these guys are any good. Nice. And this is Madison Square Garden. This is another fad sport that will disappear in the year. You think so? I don't know. Maybe you're right. I feel as if a lot of those lower impact sports are really taking off. Because as you get older, you still want to stay active, you know, and get exercise, but it's best to choose something that is high in cardio but lower impact. Mark's time usually take the train home from Penn Station. Not usually. Just the past month I've been having to do some stuff out east, so I've been taking it every now and then. But tomorrow I got to go to the airport early, so I will be taking the LIRR tomorrow. Now those two big skyscrapers in the distance, that's 1 Manhattan West and 2 Manhattan West. That's the start of New York City's Hudson Yards. But yeah, let's see if we can walk through the old Penn Station to the new Penn Station Moynihan train hall without any internet issues. So if you want to stick around for that, feel free. If not, thank you so much for joining. And we'll see you all in South Florida tomorrow. All right, so here we are in the Amtrak. This is the older Amtrak terminal. Waiting all the way in the back over there. But we'll try to navigate to more. Okay, I think we're back on. All right. We're back. All right, well, here we are in the brand new Moynihan train hall. Now, the majority of the trains that go out of here is the Amtrak train as well as the Long Island Railroad. This place is amazing. It's awesome. You have the brand new ticketing place for the Amtrak back here. And on the second floor, you have a huge lounge. It is the brand new Amtrak train waiting lounge. But it's pretty nice. All right, everybody, I'm gonna sign off for the night. I will see you all right back here tomorrow, live from Miami, Florida. So thanks so much for joining. Leave a like, subscribe, and we will see you all tomorrow. Take care. Thanks, everybody. Kimberly, William, everything in Miami, Paul, Deborah, Mark, Sunshine After Rain, all of our moderators. See you guys soon.